Hello, welcome to The Boost. My name's Leon. We're here as part of San Antonio Startup Week interviewing Marco. He's got a startup idea as part of the Pitch It to Win It competition. So welcome to The Boost.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so I watched the Instagram reel. I'd love to get the pitch again for everybody, and we'll put it in the show notes too.
Okay. It's just a concept at the moment. It's an app that will help you check in with your mindset and will help you make better decisions throughout the day. So the app at the moment would simulate real life scenarios based on a profile that you make. I think basic things like age and occupation are pretty good places to start. Mm-hmm. And from there, you would give it some general emotions that you're experiencing, more than one, hopefully. I don't always think that having just one emotion really paints a picture of it. Mm-hmm. And from there, you can simulate maybe the things that you have coming up in the day, just to kind of go through the steps. And at the end of it, you can start to link the emotions that you might be having with decision making and your behavior. And then at the end of it, it will present it to you in a graph, and you can decide after, maybe you carry out the task that, hey, I probably should have been a little bit more on the emotional side during this long meeting where I'm just listening versus maybe more assertive or more objective. So it just gives you a way to log your emotional and your mental state and sort of reflect on it afterwards. Mm-hmm. Not really thinking of doing too much advice. I think it just would be good to just sort of know where you are, and then from there you can start to, maybe reconstruct your way of thinking and just help you build better relationships.
I like it. I do a lot of like journaling. I use like day one, but it prompts you for what happened the day, write it down, kind of gives me something to remember. Also, like you can do mindfulness and those parts, but they don't have all of the additional things. Where did the idea come from? Like what was that inspiration for you?
So I've had a lot of help from my wife. We talk a lot about parenting. We got married in 2022, and we had our first kid. We have 2 boys now, and I wanted to, just make sure that I'm bringing my best every day with my kids and my family. I started reading a lot of parenting books. I've started to read some psychology books, some trauma books, and it's interesting how a lot of it overlaps with just so many different areas of parenting, psychology. It's all sort of converging in some ways. And I just, at work even, there were days when I would maybe not carry out the task as efficiently as I wanted to. I was maybe dragging work along, and then even with my coworkers, I probably wasn't connecting with them the right ways. Mm-hmm. And so I work in IT. I've been reading parenting psychology, and I feel like just subconsciously it was, just sort of came together that I would like to sort of bridge that gap and just be better at tracking my emotions and my behavior all together in one place.
How old are the boys?
My oldest, Aristeo, is 2, and my youngest, Leonel, is 1.
Okay. You're in the thick of it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm like on the biggest like journey, like I guess right now, the biggest tasks are. Yeah,
and to your credit and to your point, 100%. It's those are the moments and the development that's going to make the biggest impact, and they're going to be changing and adapting and how we act to them. I have 2 daughters, and it's every little thing matters in how you interact with them, how you handle stress and anger and happiness and all of those. And one of the things that you said was that you can have more than one emotion. You can be excited for something and scared.
Yeah.
You know, you can have more than two. You know, like I know there's probably like emotions I don't even know the word for or how to say it, but there are sometimes, you know, like emotions that I don't even think we can quantify. Like I don't even know how to express, like, you know, like I know how to express rage or happiness, but sometimes like a melancholy is like, what is this emotion? Like, have you thought about any of that? Like how you're going to prompt people, or is it more, you know, like I like the what is your background, how's there, but any other thoughts on how to help educate folks on these emotions? Because that's a hard one.
I envision the app having a pretty large list of emotions on that first question, and I think it would be good to limit them to maybe 3, just so that, you know, we can kind of lock in. You weigh them. Hey, like the first one that comes, go for that one first. But then you might also experience. You know, I would have loved to have that app going into this podcast actually, because I you know, excited. I would have marked excited, definitely nervous. And a little bit definitely energized as well. I guess I could probably put that, and just to go through, like, okay, you know, what's the task, and then just go through some scenarios in my head to get my brain going, to sort of prepare myself for this. So I'm doing a lot of research and like learning and reading with books, and I'm just starting to connect some dots in different places, and I think it would just be something that would help me personally. I think it would help my family, and maybe even you know, institutions. Think of like the therapists that they can really only attend one person at a time with their sessions, and if you give them an app where they can kind of have a dashboard into their patients, and they can maybe see throughout the week everything in between the sessions that their patients are going through, you know, with medication as well, right? They could have given a prescription to one of them, and they're really just trying to figure out if it's working for them, because when they come back around the next week, you're sort of relying on them to have a coherent account of everything that's happened in between. I mean, they're going to give you the bad, probably the good as well, but most of the time it's like you're just relying on word of mouth. And so I think having some graphs, something visual, would be really beneficial for more than just me.
Yeah, and mental health is I don't want to call it like a trending topic, but it's become more culturally acceptable to talk about mental health. It's also more acceptable to even discuss that in terms of like, hey, are you doing good? Are these projects stressing you out? Is work? Is it personal? Like, I think there's a moment here in our culture that if we kind of keep it at top of mind, but also find ways to track and discuss it, just like we have Apple Health and, you know, Apple Watches and I
love Fitbit. It's great.
Yeah, and it gives you something to kind of quantify. Am I being, you know, active? Am I being somewhat healthy? I think having the same thing for your emotions and stuff, like for a long time, there was just emotions that I don't think I quite understood. But if there was an app to kind of help guide me in that and kind of write that down and say, oh, hey, every time I go do this event, I'm always really nervous. Like, but the outcome's amazing. So I don't, like, I can, and you probably will always have that emotion, but you can also like understand that, hey, that emotion's probably good. It's a natural human response. Like, you don't have to let that, you know, the fear of it kind of get in the way. Yep. So I'm looking at it as a really kind of cool quantitative thing to look at, not only, you know, my steps, but then the health of like, oh, hey, when I talk to all these clients this day, this is how my end of the day went, and I'm like, hey, I need to adjust something in my schedule. So having actionable, not feedback, but actionable like data would be really cool. I'm kind of a data nerd in that sense.
Yeah, it's funny, in my day-to-day, I'm at the moment setting up a lot of monitoring systems, and I don't really pay too much attention to like the actual data that goes into it. I'm just like, is it operational? All right, I'm done. Like, whatever. So yeah, it sort of gets my brain going in different places, even just thinking of the idea of an app like this and what I would want to see from a user perspective, and who it would help, like leaders. Think about a scenario like a town hall, or whenever you have like an open book in a big company, and you get you get news, you get updates about the company, and then afterwards you sort of get to see the real emotions of your employees and how they feel about how you delivered the message or what you were telling them, and you can really start to figure out, like, are my employees really happy or not?
Have you ever heard of motivation code? It's called M Code. It's I'm really into like Strengths Finder, 16 personalities. One of them
Myers-Briggs.
Myers-Briggs. All of 16 personalities is the website domain, but Myers-Briggs. There's a bunch of other ones out there. For a long time, I was kind of like, I don't want to put people in a box, and it's not a perfect like thing of them. But more and more, for example, if somebody's a maximizer, and you put them in a task that is super high pressure, very fast pace, and they're a maximizer, they're gonna really struggle, and that's gonna create stress and this and other things, issues too. And being able to kind of also like, notice those in an employee sense, that would be very interesting. Like you've got paths here, so you've got maybe even a B2B, like business to business, like Slack app or some sort of integration into our enterprise tools that every business uses, and kind of like survey, because they do employee satisfaction surveys all the time, but they're
like there's so much time in between them,
and they're also kind of they're Trojan horses to most people. Most people see them as like, oh, hey, they're anonymous, but I know if I say like, hey, I hate the food in the kitchen, and this person is terrible, I want to move away from them, like that all of a sudden you gave identifiable information, and now it's like, hey, somebody's going to say something sooner or later. But if you have something more like survey-based, it's emotion, you can kind of get a quick hit of it. You can let people leave comments if they want, but I think just having that, so just in terms of your concept, B2B, that's an interesting play. Tie it into like the Myers-Briggs, the 16, the Strengths Finder. Tie those into the, hey, what is this person like? Have the emotions and see what tasks they're doing. Tie it to that. It'd be really, really interesting. And then you have a consumer side, which both ways has vastly different monetization schemes, like also vastly different challenges, so it's an interesting like fork there. What are your thoughts on like how what you see for this, or who this helps in the end?
I agree with you 100% on the Myers-Briggs 16 personalities. I always thought it was interesting how on the bottom of it, it's like, you should really only take this every 6 months. Like, why? Like, why do I have to? Why can't I just like spam it over and over again just to see like what's going on? I like the Myers-Briggs. I have a family member who has a degree in psychology, and she pointed me towards cognitive behavior therapy framework, which aligns a little bit more maybe with what this app can do, tying the emotion with the behavior is. And I was just like, that's like, wow, I can't believe it's that easy. There's a few others. I think there's emotional intelligence, but I think what I'll probably do is focus more on the cognitive behavior therapy parts. But I think people do have their strengths, especially in a workplace, and you want to utilize them. I agree with you. I don't think that people should always just be in this box, because then they start to believe it. And but maybe with the app, it can start to, if it's intelligent enough, you can start to pick up like, hey, this person is kind of this profile, but we're noticing now when they do have those presentations, maybe they still are nervous, but the responses that they're giving to the scenarios suggests that they're actually starting to restructure the way they think, and maybe it's building more confidence, right? Like maybe the nervous and it's sort of there's a balance, like nervous is kind of lowering, but their confidence is getting better. So a lot of it is still just a ton of research I feel like I have to do. That's just the meat and potatoes of the real engine of the application. All the things around it, there's all these tech stacks that you have to consider, back end, front end. How do you want the UI to look? and I'm an operations guy. I work as a DevOps engineer. I work on Azure, and all of the other things around it are new to me. They're interesting. I want to learn them. And so this project, this idea is really energizing me. And I just want to just keep working it out and hopefully have a finished product that will help me, help everybody I love.
I've got two thoughts. The first one, again, I would do that startup boot camp. If you're not a member of Geekdom, you don't have to be for that. I would go sometime today or tomorrow, find Christy. She runs that program, and just kind of talk to her, and she can explain it a little better and, like get you signed up for any of that. But that would help you kind of start with the lean canvas, go through that, and then also get mentor feedback. Because while I might be positive on this, some other folks might come in and say, hey, in an example, is that is that HIPAA? Is that identifiable health data? I don't know. It might not be. Like if it is, that kind of you go down a different path of like.
You're not going to be selling this to companies.
Yeah. That's an interesting thought. And then on the other side, somebody might come in and say, hey, this might be a really good use case, and also be able to tell you kind of this is what's the model maybe, or hey, there's another app out there that kind of does something similar, or hey, they just raise money, and it's a big ocean, like there's enough for more than one. But that, and then on the second thought is I'll kind of ask like some of those questions, like have you thought about monetization or any of those other parts, like like how do you make money? Who's your customer? So if we want to break it down, like let's do who is your customer initially.
Probably would be institutions, therapists, giving them a portal. I've gone to therapy, actually. I did a few therapy sessions for a few months. I really enjoyed it. I was kind of just going for just general I guess guidance you can say. It was just at the point where I had both kids and just everything was just being thrown at me, right? So I wanted just some place to check myself, and it was very beneficial. It's expensive.
Yes.
So I think when I would go to these sessions, it was very, there was, at least I don't know, the in-person ones, I don't think that there was any technology involved. There was a few that I did over the camera, over Zoom or whatever. That
like a BetterHelp almost, yeah.
BetterHelp, yeah. So imagine that there is like a recording feature to it where they can maybe go back and look at different parts of it, but...
be a little scary.
Maybe not. For me, it's like I'm going there to get help, right?
Yeah.
And I sort of see it as a tool. Like, why wouldn't you use it to help this person, right? Like, if I come to a therapist and I say, like, I have some some data that you might be like you've never seen, right? Like, I have the trends of my emotions throughout the day, my schedule. It might in the end save money on sessions, right? You're not paying
like
so much.
A fitness coach. A fitness coach is asking you to record your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner. You got to record, with your Apple Watch, how often you work out. You have to do your workouts. And then even outside of that, it's asking, are you, getting enough sleep? All those things. So the same could be said there. Yeah. Okay, so we kind of have customer. Have you thought about monetization? That's how do you make money?
Not just yet. No.
Yeah. No, it's an important question. It's a hard question. It's not always something that you got to start off with. There's freemium models where essentially everything's free and you've got some ads and maybe you have a subscription that gets you longer storage. Yeah. Or hey, you can now pass this over to your doctor for $3.99 a month. Yeah. I forget the rest of Lean Canvas. But those are the two that I always, when I go to mentor on those startup boot camps, I kind of ask, who's your customer? Because you got to go think about them. You're your own customer in this case. That's a good and important part because you've got a basis of what you want it to look like. What I would say to like do anything is I would put some stuff together. Landing page, email capture, and just start kind of building that idea, but have that landing page. So when somebody, you're in the elevator and you're pitching an idea to somebody, you can say, hey, I've got a newsletter. I kind of like give updates about, hey, some mental health stuff that I read, and then also what I've been doing here. But it gives you that audience to build. And then when you're ready to take that step, or you're ready to launch an app, you've got a built-in list of potential customers, some beta testers, or even people that might just give you feedback of like, oh, hey, this would have been useful in this time in my life, but now less so. But that would be like the unsolicited advice for me is get that up, and just start collecting people's names, so that everyone that says, oh, I think that's kind of cool, emails down. Again, you read a cool book, you send it to them. I'm sure that's something I would subscribe to. Like, okay, hey, cool book. I remember Marco. I remember he's got an app, and then a year from now, it's like, oh, hey, he's launching that. Like, let me check it out and everything.
That's interesting. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it's the easiest thing. So, and we were talking about this a little bit before. A lot of founders come on here. They're past the incubator, pre-accelerator stages here. They've got a business going. They've got some customers. You've got a concept, and getting an MVP out, super important. And just doing and executing, I think, is super important. It's sometimes a really big hurdle, but you've also got the safety of a job. I know, obviously, you've got 2 kids, you've got a wife, you've got a job. Trying to build something on the side is exceptionally hard, but you've got the stability to kind of, ideate, think about it, and then build on a longer term.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun just talking to it at the end of the day. I mean, it's going on through my head all day long, right? Because I'm just like, right now I could use this app. Like, I want to capture so much about what I'm thinking and feeling.
Yeah. So just kind of as we wrap up, last question, San Antonio Startup Week, how did you find out about it? And then any sessions that you kind of went to that you enjoyed?
So I found out about it through LinkedIn, I'm pretty sure. There's a few people that I have connections with that I think, basically work here or have worked here. So it just showed up on my feed. It looked interesting. I used to love coming to the Tech Trek. I don't know if you did that.
Mm-hmm. It's been a
that
while.
Was so much fun. Like, I wish it would come back. I love Tech Trek. It was just it was cool. It just, you come in here, you get some food, you drink some beers, you meet some people.
Yeah, you got to go.
If you're really serious, you're probably trying to find a job, Not me. I was just trying to enjoy the downtown area. Yeah,
because they toured the Frost Building, Scaleworks, Jungle Disc. It was really cool.
There's like a scavenger hunt going on, I think, too. It's like if you hit all the buildings, you get like some shirt or something.
Yes.
That sounds fun.
Oh, I do remember the stamp. It's bringing back some nostalgia there of that. I'm going to have to remind them of that.
It was fun, yeah.
Those were the early days. I don't know if they had one ever after COVID, but I remember the pre-COVID ones.
Yeah.
Those were fun. Those were fun events. I'm gonna have to recommend somebody.
A funny story actually about the Tech Trek. My buddy, he was the one that told me about it, that I worked with, and he was like, "You want to come to Tech Trek?" And I had just moved actually downtown, and he was like, "You're pretty close. Like, let's just go together." And I was like, "Sure," but he's a huge Star Trek nerd. I like Star Trek too, but he said Tech Trek, so I thought it was like some Star Trek convention. So I show up with like, just some casual clothes, and he's like, "What are you doing? You might meet your future employer." I'm like, "You said it's like Star Trek." He's like, "It's a Tech Trek. There's a lot of like people with businesses that could possibly hire you." And he's like, "But they have beer." And I was like, "Oh, well then, why are you giving me crap?" It's like it's good. It's just for fun.
I also think, for the most part, almost all the businesses down here are pretty casual.
Yeah.
You run into a couple of them that are, some folks dress up, but I've never been that person. I'm the t-shirt and shorts most of the time. It's got a little chilly today, but
I did. I was here Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. Mm-hmm. To be totally honest with you, I came down for the Pitch It to Win It competition. Yeah,
that's great. No, I've heard that from a number of folks, and it's exciting. Like, we help sponsor that, and Geekdom's executing on it, and the down market, and it's really cool to hear folks saw that maybe on the news, on LinkedIn, or something else, and they were like, "Oh, I'm going to come," because not only do you get to like look at and pitch your company, but you get to go have some programming that's related. It's free, and then this is a huge network.
Yeah.
We just did a podcast on investing in community and talking about like how does San Antonio grow as a tech scene, and this is a function of it, getting you to start a company possibly, and encouraging that and giving you the foundations for introducing the right people, and like at some point you might need to talk to a therapist that understands a business perspective that can be an advisor, and you might find that in one of these networks. It might not be Geekdom, it might be Tech Block, it might be these other ones, even the Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. It's huge.
Yeah.
There's a ton of folks in it. So I think it's a small part, but I love to hear, hey, something small got you to come here, and then overall you're getting the value out of it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it was fun. I attended a few of the like Latino themed presentations. Pretty interesting. There's a lot of data that they throw at you.
It's a normal conference.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I really appreciate it. I'm glad we could talk through this.
Likewise.
Whenever you launch it, I'd love to have you back on.
Okay.
Or whenever you kind of get through, just stay in contact with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, it's on Apple Podcasts, it's on YouTube, or the Boost.fm. Thank you.